today's guest is from a bit closer to home for me, up north. As my mum and dad say, the proper north. But that's just because they're a bit fascist when it comes to that. And it comes from a place where it might be a bit rainy and a bit miserable, but certainly with who I've got today, the music is quite the fucking contrary. And even though they're from what I would call the wrong side of the time, obviously that's controversial, I know, but that ain't gonna stop me from loving the music they make and the warm presence that they have at gigs and from live videos. So can you please give a warm welcome to Eddie Scott from Picnic? Thanks for being here, mate.
No bother, thanks for having us.
I usually ask people where we first met, but I would say that probably now there's less people who I can ask that to and they know. The first time I met yous was I was in a band called Jack Jack.
All right.
This was a few years ago, and you were playing at little buildings, like old little buildings, and you were the headlining it, and it was through a promoter. I think it was Pillar Artists.
Right,
we were meant to play that as the first support, and then there were altercations with the bass player where he ended up getting kicked out and had to cancel the gig. But I remember getting who was on it, and you were at the top. I remember listening to you, and you then, like I liked you then. Then the later stuff you've kind of released, like the most recent one, Baby, and the song before that was obviously it's like even an improvement on that. But that was the first time I kind of came to know yous. And my mate from university, he knows a band called Dead Wax, and apparently from Huddersfield, and yous went and supported them, I believe.
Yeah.
He mentioned this band Picnic, and then immediately I got these like flashback to that gig and stuff. But I just thought it was a nice little
oh job. yeah. I love playing little buildings. Like it was really weird for us because we were like sort of. I don't know if that was the gig we did with like 8 of us when we had an 8-piece and there was like trumpet and sax and everything. But fitting into little buildings was an absolute nightmare. But it was always fun. Always enjoyed playing there.
Yeah, I've only played there once before it was moved. Because obviously it's moved, and we had a tour scheduled like early this year, which obviously got postponed. But little buildings, for people who don't know, it is literally what it says on the fucking tin. It is a fucking very small venue, but it is cool, and it always gets pretty sweaty. I can't imagine how you managed an 8-piece.
It was tough. Like it was like ridiculously sweaty. Especially the cap was like really small. I think every time we played there, it sold out because it was only like 40 cap. Maybe it was like a little sitting room. So like having all those people squeezed into a tiny room, and then us on the stage, which was basically just a cordoned off section of that room. It was like getting off stage, you just wanted to run outside straight away.
Yeah, the thing with little buildings is like you could have 10 people there and it looks
yeah, that's it. That's why we loved it, really.
As everyone knows, I kind of tend to stay away from the generic questions because they're a bit boring, but I'm going to ask a few just get the ball rolling, So the first one was, where did the name of the band come from?
I always try and make up something like a cool story around this and try to have a different made up story for everyone, but it's pretty early and I can't really think of anything that I'd be able to commit to. So the truth is much more boring. We had a longer name. I'll just tell you the longer name, actually. I've never said it before. It was Hiroshima Picnic Society was the full name, which was just like too much of a mouthful. So we were like, I just wanted to make it snappier. So we were like, we'll just take the picnic bit. And then I had to look around because I thought, there might be a few bands that already have the name Picnic. And there was, and the main one was like a shoegaze band from Estonia. So yeah, I had to email them and was like, starting a band, are you cool with us using this name? And they were like, yeah, that's sound. I don't think they've released anything for a few years, so we kind of took their place as the main Picnic that comes up on results. So yeah, that was it really. There wasn't really a massive process behind it.
The thing is with it, it's sort of nice with how you had obviously the longer name and then you shortened it, but then I think the benefit of not having necessarily a story behind it or much meaning is that the word itself, the meaning becomes the music you make. So,
Yeah.
for example, if someone mentioned picnic to me and it wasn't necessarily directly linking it to you as a band, I would immediately go like, oh, it's that funk band from the northeast
Oh,
with some
that's cool.
sweet sax. So it's kind of it's sort of good to be in that position, and it's good that the Estonian fellas were absolutely chill with you.
Oh yeah, they were really cool. They're really cool.
You mentioned there when you did the Little Villains one, you had 8 members, and as I counted, now there are 7 members in the band, I believe.
There's six. There's six at the minute.
There's 6 at the minute. Okay, must have been an old photo.
Yeah.
But in terms of writing songs, what are the processes? And on top of that, is it ever kind of a bit challenging when there's that many people in the band?
It has been. I think we've been writing songs and doing this for like 5 years now. So it's sort of the main process has stayed the same, where I'll kind of come in with an idea, usually just like the lyrics and the structure and everything, and then we'll come in and everyone will sort of add their own parts. The process sort of changed as we kind of, a few of them, we jammed out a bit more. Whereas I think in the start, it was pretty much I had it in my head how I wanted it to sound, and that's how it went. But I think as we've kind of played with each other more and got to know each other more, we know what we're good at. So there's certain bits I can leave and just be like, I'll just see what Chris, who plays sax, I'll just see what he wants to do here. Or for Callum on bass, I can just say, he can just go mental, and we'll just leave it there and we'll kind of jam things out. So I think the process now is a lot better than it was, and the stuff that we're coming out with now is a lot more. We all enjoy playing it. I think we went through a phase where we're just like, well, me especially, where I was like writing stuff that I thought people would like. And then when we were actually playing it, we weren't necessarily feeling it. It was just like, oh, if this happens here and we break this down here, then people might get involved, but we didn't really enjoy it that much. So now I think there's a balance of we enjoy playing it and people enjoy listening.
The latest single you've very, very recently released is Baby. And I had a little deeks of it, a little listen, and as expected, it was brilliant, and I loved it.
Thank
and
you.
It had a lovely rhythm and funk vibe to it. The riff itself, I was just wondering, where did it come from, and what were the kind of the influences of the song?
I wrote the full thing. I was working at the Disney store, and I worked in the stock room doing like deliveries and stuff. And I just kind of had the melody come to my head, and usually my voice notes on my phone is full of just melodies or random lyrics when I'm walking about. But when I was in the stock room that night, I kind of came up with the chorus melody and where I wanted the stabs to be and what the chords should be, and I just sort of like sang them all into my phone, and then ran home and picked up a guitar. And then I think we had like a practice a couple of days later, and it all just, I played through the chords. I think we jammed it out like one time all the way through, and it came together like really quickly. I think because it was quite simple lyrically, and the melody was quite easy to grab. And then the sax solo, that was all in recording when we went in and started recording it. Chris just, we wrote that. It was like me, Chris, and our producer Martin sat in the studio and did it like bar by bar. So improvised for a bit, and then we listened back and picked out certain little licks and just sort of pieced together the solo. And then Chris went back and recorded it. So yeah, it was a long process in the end, but like when it first came together, it was like really quick. I think within like 2 run throughs we got it.
No, it's cool that. I find it a good story, and being in a Disney stock room is where that idea was spawned. The whole thing about Disney is magical, and
It is.
obviously must have had some sort of influence on you.
Maybe, yeah.
So, in terms of looking at the song and then external of the song and other songs, and just you personally, what do you feel influences your playing? So, obviously, you've mentioned like Chic as one who I'd imagine influenced you, but is there anything else which is a bit of a curveball that you cite as an influence?
I'd say the main sort of three people I listen to. Number one's Randy Newman, who did the Disney music for Toy Story and Cars and stuff like that on here. So Randy Newman, Carly Rae Jepsen. I listen to every Carly Rae Jepsen song on repeat. Going to the Isle of Wight to see her again next year. And Corey Wong, the guitarist from Wolfpack,
Right.
who's got some really great solo albums and stuff out as well, and just keeps releasing loads of great stuff. So those three are probably like the biggest influences. As far as going into picnic stuff, it is probably Corey Wong and the Wolfpack stuff, with a bit of Carly Rae Jepsen and the like sweet pop melodies, and she just never misses really when it comes to pop songs. So yeah.
No, it's certainly it's somewhat of a kind of eclectic but expected sort of influences when you think about the songs. I'm right in saying Wolfpack's like that, like jazz, funk.
Yeah, they're sort of like a jam band that started out doing some like instrumental stuff, and now they've released quite a few albums of like actual songs. But it's all like basically they wanted to make a big session band like the Wrecking Crew, with like just unbelievable musicians. So they all go off and do their own sort of things. Like Theo Katzman, who sings with them, plays drums and guitar and everything, and then Corey Wong, who's an amazing guitarist. So Wolfpack themselves are like amazing, but all the side projects you get from them are really good as well.
Yeah.
I've seen them every time they've came to the UK, and they've always been amazing.
No, it's cool. It's cool to have a kind of a slightly curveball in terms of influences. So back to Baby.
Mm-hmm.
The song itself has this kind of the style which I would say is your band style, and a one that's been kind of across all your releases and seems to be improving more and more. And I just wanted to ask, based on that, why is it that you've opted to focus on the kind of upbeat guitar pop and these kind of pop melodies from your influences over maybe some of the more, I don't want to say popular music, but maybe like music done by like alt rock bands like Fontaines DC or Idols, that heavier thing? Why have you chose to do this kind of guitar indie pop sort of vibe?
It was a conscious choice. It was definitely something I wanted to do on purpose. It's not because I don't like that music. I love Fontaines DC and a lot of sort of heavier stuff. It was just kind of when we were going out to local shows, we were seeing a lot of the same sort of bands, and hearing a lot of the same sort of music. And sometimes it didn't really get you going and make you want to dance and sort of forget about things. I think sometimes it was a bit too heavy, like subject-wise, or it just sort of when you're in the industrial area, you come out with more sort of political music and things like that that are ingrained in the culture, whereas I think what we wanted to do was the exact opposite, where it was literally just an escape, stuff where you didn't really have to think too much about it, just focus on something you can dance to. You can listen and analyze it if you'd like to, but even if you just come along and you have no idea who we are, you could still dance along. So that was the aim, and it was always to try and make things, just release positive music that was happy. And I think sometimes people don't want to get on board with that, but I think the live shows have shown that people who wouldn't, the number one sort of thing that we get told is that people wouldn't usually listen to our style of music, or they kind of listen to us before a show and we're like, oh, it's not my sort of thing. But then when they come to the show, they end up enjoying themselves. And I think that was the main thing that we wanted to do. Just be like, we're not trying to force anything on anyone. It's just if you come and have a good time, that's the aim, really.
I think that's like you're saying about being in an industrial area and the kind of the political prowess of it and stuff and what it is. I think that's like a really quite an interesting point because I'll admit that I've become I succumb to that in terms of being from that, and that's like how things are and stuff. And I think you're right completely about your band is that you don't really have to know your band to go and enjoy yourself, and that kind of happiness that I'll probably say doesn't necessarily contrast as much in the northeast as it like used to, but
Yeah.
still I totally agree with you with the band thing. But no, I think that's a really interesting point. Moving from Baby to I Need Everybody, which is one of I think probably my favourite songs that you've done. And for modern funk, it's certainly fucking got all the things you need in it. But I was talking to some friends, and I was telling them I was doing this interview with you, and they were saying that there's a guitar tutorial on Instagram where you play guitar and you talk through what you do, and being a person who loves alternate tunings and things away from standard E, I found out that your guitar is in an alternate tuning on that song.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering from there if you could talk about how you wrote the song and why it is that you wrote it in an alternate tuning.
I think I've always loved alternate tunings because I was me and Matty, our drummer, were massively into math rock and emo music for ages. We went to Arctangent Festival and saw American football and all those sort of bands, which was amazing. And at the beginning of Picnic, we kind of wanted to incorporate that a little bit. But it ended up getting sort of watered down and simplified when we realised what we actually wanted to do. For that, I just kind of had a bit of writer's block, really. I went through a period, I think it was maybe when I was like leaving uni, and I just kind of didn't know what to do with my life, and nobody prepares you for leaving education at all and just being dropped into the world. So I kind of just didn't have any motivation to write anything. So I just started messing about on guitar, and that's why I ended up in that tuning, which is some F sharp open tuning that I changed a couple of strings on to fit what I wanted. And it was just kind of messing about with it. I had the I Need Everybody chorus melody. We tried to fit it in to a few different songs, and it just never really fit. And then when I had that tune and I started playing around those chords, and I was like, I'm just going to see if this works over the top of it. And it did. And then off the back of that, I just made the riff, which was, I was listening to a lot of Carly Rae Jepsen at the time. And there's a song called When I Needed You, which has like a really cool slap bass riff in it. And I was just trying to rip that off, really. So I was like messing about, trying to work that out on guitar, and I came up with the I Need Everybody riff. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to attach that to this chorus thing I've done. And then we ran it, and it sort of finally came together. So that song took like probably 2 years because I had it in different bits. And then when we finally put them together, we were like, oh, this works as a song. But yeah, I don't really want to write much else in different tunings because it means I have to take more guitars to the gigs. We've got a new one that's all in drop C sharp, so that's now 3 guitars I've got to take to gigs, which is just too much.
No, I know that with alternate tunings, is the alternate tunings I think are really cool, but as you say, it's absolute pain in the arse because then you either have to bring another guitar, or if by some chance you don't have another guitar, then you have to do a tuning live, which obviously is a fucking nightmare. But I think it's good how you're saying that you had this sort of writer's block and you weren't prepared to kind of like education and prepared you because no one does. And then you wrote that song, and then that song got released, and like it's like the most successful one. So in a certain way, it's kind of maybe good you had writer's block.
Yeah,
and you had this stuff because it's like influenced a great funk song.
Oh well, thank you.
So moving to the northeast, kind of, sort of generally, and speaking of maybe Sunderland, I was just wondering, what's your opinions of like the music scene in Sunderland and then like further afield in the northeast, for example, in like Newcastle as such?
I think the music scene in Sunderland is starting to become really good again. I think when we started up, it was sort of an in-between period where there was bands sort of like the Future Heads and Frankie and the Heartstrings and even like Cohesion and things like that were all sort of coming to an end or like drifting off into different things. So we came about and there was sort of a gap in Sunderland and there wasn't very many bands floating about when we were going. Whereas at the minute, there's just been a resurgence in the last year of like really young bands. There's an acoustic artist called Faye Fantaro, who's amazing. We've gigged with her a couple of times. They have something called the Young Musicians Project in Sunderland, where young songwriters go every week to write songs and meet new people. And loads of bands have came out of that, like Plastic Glass, Lottie Willis is another one to look out for, Amy McGuinness is a new one. So I think it's a really exciting time for like the Sunderland scene. Band Know You, amazing, like probably the best, I think, indie pop rock band in the northeast at the minute. A band called Know You from Sunderland, who released a song every month this year. So
That's pretty
there's
impressive.
loads. Yeah, I know the guy Connor Jobs is just an absolute machine. But for whatever reason, I think they just need some better promo behind them because the songs are just like unbelievable quality. And I think they're starting to get a bit of recognition now. But yeah, Sunderland scene's really blossomed. I think the Sunderland scene, it might be like a controversial thing to say, but I think it's completely true. I think the Sunderland scene has always been a bit more unique than the Newcastle side of things. I think when we went through Newcastle, we've always seen a similar type of band and a similar type of band that's came out of it. Whereas Sunderland, I think sometimes they might not go on to be as successful and have the backing behind them. But I've always found that there's some really interesting bands that you see coming out of Sunderland.
With that though, I think like I do agree with you. Like I've been in the Newcastle scene in a band, and there's very little that necessarily differentiates from a group of bands who were probably at the time regarded as the ones that everyone in the scene knew. And I think it's better to have a diverse scene because, you know, if you're going to see alt rock all the time, it'd be really fucking boring. And I know that I've succumbed to that, and I did in Jack Jack, and it was just kind of that. And however much I love doing that, in hindsight, compared to the rest of the bands, kind of got pushed to the middle slash bottom of the pile because there was lots of other bands who had a better idea than us because they were just older. Because I think there's Roxy Girls from Sunderland.
Yeah, Roxy Girls, another one, got signed to Moshi Moshi Records.
I didn't know they were signed. That's cool.
Which are like a band. I think they're just a really, really Sunderland band as well. It kind of feels like really away from the mainstream, but they've managed to get amazing BBC like Radio 6 coverage and stuff like that, and they've done really well. And they're like one of the best live bands you can see as well, like energy-wise, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, in terms of them, they're like one of the bands who I knew who were from Sunderland.
Yeah.
Other than obviously like yourselves, and like they are really, really, really good. Like if anyone's watching, like go on Spotify. Obviously, check out Picnic first. Once you've checked out Picnic, then check out Roxy Girls because they're like they have that like really weird like 60s garage rock sort of Talking Heads vibe.
Yeah,
it's a bit like, you know, it's just, do you know what it is? It's just fucking cool. It's fucking great. And if you're watching any of Roxy Girls, you might not be, but if you are, you know, Cheesy Beans is always open for an interview. All I'm saying. So, moving on to talking about COVID, the obvious bane of all musicians worldwide. You did a covers album called I Need Everybody, and I believe the album was asking different artists for, was it them to do covers, or you asked them for their songs to cover?
No, we basically got 14 No, well, there was 13 different artists covered I Need Everybody, which was our like single at the time. So it's 14 tracks of the same song, if you ever want to listen to that. But I often do, because I think it's like they've done some of them. It's unrecognizable because the style is so far from what we are. Like there's a field music one on there. Mount Misery did one. Faith and Tarot's got one on there, which is amazing. So yeah, that was really enjoyed doing that. But yeah, it's just all the same song.
The album was a covers album, and it was for the Sunderland homeless charity. And I was just wondering, you did that because it's important, and it was important to help them, and obviously it still is. But I was just wondering, how do you feel it is for artists like yourselves to help during the current pandemic?
I think we shouldn't have to, really, is the bottom line. We shouldn't have had to. We raised £500 for a food bank from that album, which, like, we shouldn't need a food bank up here or anywhere in the UK, because it's just ridiculous that we do, and especially how the numbers of rows of how many we actually have in the country at the minute. So that it's annoying that we had to do that. But I think it's just looking at it, and you can either choose to be really annoyed and send some sort of angry tweets about the government, or you can do something about it, however small that may be. And I've done both, really. Sent lots of angry tweets and got banned off Twitter for it. But I think it was just kind of a sense of looking at all these sort of sad videos and posts and everything and being like, oh, well, however small the following is, I'm sure we could make some kind of tiny dent and feel like we've done something. And I think loads of artists did similar things and venues and stuff, when really, like, the people that were doing them were also suffering and having to sort of make ends meet. Loads of my mates have lost work and venues have closed and lost jobs, but they was still getting involved to raise money for other things. So it's amazing, and I think it's shown like people's true colours, really. But also I feel like there shouldn't be a responsibility for people to do that, because you don't know everyone else's situation at all.
Yeah, no, again, I agree. I have sent many an angry tweet, angry message on Facebook regarding the government, but it does get to a point where you can't just keep complaining about it, and you do kind of have to start to think, well, if they're not going to do something, then maybe I should do something. And as you said, you know, some people can't.
Yeah.
That's fine. But when you're in a position where you can, I think really you should be. We did, yous did. I know a few bands who've been a part of projects where it's been a compilation CD raising money for Music Venue Trust or a charity like yours. And I think it does kind of get to a point where you've got to, in a certain way, not really pay attention to the government in that kind of respect of, you need to kind of go, well, I'm not going to listen to anything that they're saying, whether it's given, we're promising this money, it's doing your own thing in your own initiative and going out of your way because it's something that you care about and that will affect you. And I think that's the forefront of albums like ours that we've released. So moving on to performing, I'll say post first lockdown, because obviously there's a slight chance that saying post lockdown might become kind of wrong choice of words. But what's it been like to perform in a socially distanced setting?
Much better than we anticipated, I think. I was talking to, I've been to a few gigs at Time Bank Brewery, and I went last night or the night before to see Jodie Nicholson and Matt Dunbar play. And there was a guy we know from Many Moons who we went to see a couple of days before. I was just chatting with him about how we kind of felt it was going to be really weird because our shows are all about people dancing and getting involved. But from a sort of purely selfish point of view, just getting on stage and actually playing, like with the band, was amazing. And we kind of, as soon as we got on, we sort of forgot about that because it was just so good to be playing a gig again. Obviously, it's totally different because you don't have the sort of crowd to feed off. But if that's all we can have for right now, it was like much better than nothing, really. Um,
Yeah. I think in terms of it, it's a sort of, this is a problem which is going to be around for a little while, and people. When I first heard about social distance gigs, like you probably imagine, you just thought like, oh, what's this going to be like? It's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as fun.
yeah,
When really, it's not only has it been. I wouldn't say it's been exactly the same in terms of having fun, but I would say it's been a very different kind of thing, because coming back to a live setting, you remember how much you like
yeah,
enjoy it and love it. Because we've done one, and it just felt like we were playing it outdoors. Really,
yeah.
it just felt like that sort of a setting. Um, but have Time Bank been putting on several gigs? 'Cause I've seen you advertise a few.
Yeah, Time Bank have been really good. They've been working with Little Buildings um, to sort of make sure that I think there's been like 2 gigs on a week for the last sort of month, and they've got more in the pipeline and some really good names on there as well. So the Time Bank shows have been really good, and it's a big enough venue that all the rules can sort of be adhered to, and they've got apps where you can order food to your table and order drinks and stuff. And I think all the artists that have played there that I've seen have just been really grateful for the opportunity to just play a gig.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. It's good to hear that there's something being done.
Yeah,
So the final part of my interviews, as everyone knows, you know the score. It's a quick fire round. All the guests haven't seen what questions I'm going to be asking. They're a bit random. They're a bit fucked up, and some of them have some actual meaning. So we'll get straight on to it. So the first question is, what's your favourite biscuit?
Oh, fucking hell, big question. Fox's Golden Crunch Creams.
Oh, what a shout! That is a fucking good biscuit. That is one of the ones which is said to be liked after like your standard ones, your ginger nuts, your custard
Oh yeah,
creams,
yeah.
and
I eat a lot of biscuits. I love biscuits, like so.
Next question is Spider-Man or Batman?
Um, I'll go Spider-Man. I just think it'll be more fun being Spider-Man. Um,
Yeah.
and Bruce Wayne's a billionaire, so I don't know if I can back him. So yeah, I'll go Spider-Man.
Is Spider-Man more picnic and Batman more misery?
Yeah, yeah. I think Spider-Man. He's very positive, isn't he? He's always got a very chirpy outlook on things, and he's always got some nice little quips, especially in the comics. So yeah, I'll go Spider-Man.
Do you think
Final answer.
Do you think Spider-Man would be more likely to come to a picnic gig than Batman?
Yeah, he'd probably get sent there on a press job like Peter Parker or something. So I don't think Bruce Wayne would come down and dance with the peasants that are going to be rocking out at the gigs.
Yeah,
So
he's a bit
yeah,
of a Tory. He's a bit of a Tory, and
he is.
Fuck,
But he fights
fuck.
evil and that. So I've got no beef with Batman if he's watching.
What's your favourite venue to play in the Northeast?
Ooh, don't really know. We played Riverside for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, we played it a couple of times. Riverside was cool. I like Independent. Independent now in Sunderland is a lot better than it was when we first started. I think they've got like a really good team in charge there. I'll tell you what. Actually, no, none of them. I'm gonna go with Base Camp in Middlesbrough.
Oh, cool. Middlesbrough
Just
venue.
because I was
I
like, it had the coolest green room. They always gave us like loads of food and hummus, and they had a ping pong table, and we got goodie bags. So yeah, Base Camp.
What was in the goodie bag?
It was really weird. I think it was different for every different person, but you got like a couple of sweets. We got a random DVD. I think I got series 3 of How I Met Your Mother on DVD, which I thought was class. Yeah, there was and some like badges and stickers and stuff.
Was it like a goodie bag you get like from a kid's party when you were younger, and you get a little
Yeah, yeah, but with How I Met Your Mother on DVD in it, so even better.
I think I might have to put proposition to the band about playing that fucking venue.
Oh, it's unreal. The people there are amazing. They've been doing socially distant gigs as well, so definitely recommend that.
Oh, cool. Next question is Woody or Buzz Lightyear?
Oh, um, I'd have to go with no. I'll go with Buzz because I was obsessed with Buzz when I was little. I had like a million different Buzz Lightyears. I had the Buzz Lightyear game on Dreamcast. I had Buzz Lightyear curtains. I had Buzz Lightyear stickers all around my walls. So I'd have to go Buzz Lightyear, yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, if someone asked me that question, I wouldn't really know how to answer it. Because it is, I'd probably say it's the hardest question of the fucking interview.
It is. It's really the ultimate choice, but yeah, Buzz.
And then the last question to round things off is describe picnic in one word.
Fun.
Fun. Apt description of a funky, fun band. And that's the end. I've had a whale of a time. It's been nice talking to someone who is from the Northeast, obviously being in York and being a student. There's not that many Northeast people around. So it's quite nice to speak to someone who has an accent of that sort of area. So yeah, I hope you've had a wonderful time.
I have, the best.
It's been nice to have you on and to speak to you. Hope everything's okay on your side, and I look forward to hearing more of your songs.
Last, cheers. Well, I look forward to seeing more of your podcast.
Good stuff, right? Wait, everyone watching. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you. Bye.